We begin with the latest from Syria, where fears of a civil war are returning. Just over 3 months since the ouster of President Bashar al-Assad, which brought the 14-year-long civil war to a restive halt. The latest surge in violence over 3 days has reportedly killed over 1,000 people. These bloody clashes between the new Syrian government forces and Assad's loyalists began last week, when government forces were ambushed during a security operation in the port city of Latakia. After this, the Syrian government launched a counter-offensive against Assad loyalists, bringing havoc and chaos to several towns and cities in the coastal areas. From Latakia, violence quickly spread to the Jable town and Tartus province. In Jable, gunmen were seen attacking a restaurant and smashing car windows. The affiliation of the attackers is yet to be verified. A UK-based war monitor, Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, said that of the over 1,000 people killed, at least 700 were civilians. The war monitor claimed that these civilians were killed by government forces, as they did not distinguish between the combatants and non-combatants. In the latest unrest, this has been the bloodiest outbreak of violence since the fall of the Assad regime. Syria's interim president, Ahmed Al-Jolani, has vowed to hunt down those responsible for the violence and has warned Assad loyalists, asking them to give up arms.
By your heinous actions, killing those who protect Syria and work tirelessly to serve it, storming hospitals, and terrorizing the innocent, you have attacked all Syrians. In doing so, you have committed a great and unforgivable sin. The response you received is one you cannot endure. Therefore, surrender your weapons and yourselves before it is too late. Anyone who harms unarmed civilians or punishes one group for the actions of another will be severely held accountable.
Syria's coastal region is the heartland of the Alawite minority and a stronghold of the Assad family. The region has become a major security challenge for interim President Ahmed Al-Jolani. At the heart of the ongoing clashes are sectarian attacks against the Alawites. Since Bashar al-Assad's ouster, attacks on the Alawites have been on the rise. Alawite activists, particularly in Latakia and Homs, say their community has been subjected to violence and attacks since Assad's ouster, while the government refuses to provide any services. Now, in last week's ambush, the pro-Assad Alawite gunmen attacked security forces and took control of Qardaha, Bashar al-Assad's hometown. Damascus then sent in reinforcements. The interim government says security forces have restored control of the region. But since then, a counter-offensive against the Alawite community has been raging. The Al-Jolani government says it will continue to pursue leaders of the insurgency. In the capital, Damascus, hundreds protested to condemn the violence in the country's coastal provinces, calling for pan-Syrian unity in the face of sectarian killings. The protesters called for building a new Syria free of violence.
Syrian people are one. No to sectarianism. Stop the sedition. The blood of a Syrian on another Syrian is forbidden. We must build a free Syria, the new Syria, hand by hand.
We are against blood. We do not want revenge. Those who violated rules and killed and spilled Syrian blood should be held fairly accountable and executed in Marjah Square. But the innocent people have nothing to do with it. Families, doctors, pharmacists died on the ground and they cannot bury their bodies. This is forbidden.
In West Asia's conflict-laden past and violence-ridden present, the pattern of once powerful minority community members dying in the purported revenge killings is not new. It happened with Iraq's minority Sunni community after Saddam Hussein's fall in the early 2000s. And now Alawites are seen to be becoming the target of sectarian revenge after the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. The new government is facing the challenge to keep the country united after decades of sectarian fragmentation. Now, for more on this, we have with us Daniel Gerlach, West Asia expert and Director General of Candid Foundation. He is joining us live from Berlin, Germany. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, Alison. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Now, thank you. Now, with the death toll from the clashes between the Syrian government forces and Assad loyalists surpassing 1,000, what are the underlying factors that are driving the sudden escalation of violence? And how significant is this infighting for the stability of the regime?
Yeah, look, I've returned from Syria recently and I've spent some time on the coast and I've been working with the Alawite community in mediation and dialogue efforts for many years. So I think I'm well informed about what's going on there. I can tell you that there are three factors that have been exacerbating the situation. One is the release, the laying off basically of many Syrians from the state institutions, including the security apparatus, which led to discontent because many Alawites in the old regime depended on the income from the state institutions. So that fueled unrest and gave also rise to some of the very few, but unfortunately very harmful remnants of the old regime that are armed and that are willing to take revenge. Another factor is, of course, the absence of security forces, because the government of Bashar in Damascus has very limited security forces. But the third, and that we see very clearly, is in addition to the security incidents, there's a lot of underlying hatred and feeling that retribution and revenge, however violent it is somehow justified because the Alawites, in the eyes of many in Syria, were tied to the old regime and were profiteers of the old regime, which is false to a large extent. But that is also one of the reasons why I think the government is choosing its enemies and is not directly confronting those militias and vigilantes that have been going around rousing the villages, attacking people, looting homes, and killing large number of civilians. These were not necessarily all tied to the new government, but many of them are militias that are part of the security forces due to the lack of a real army and a real police craft that is soon to be built in Syria, hopefully.
Right. And Daniel, what are the potential humanitarian and geopolitical implications of this intensified conflict for Syria and for the broader region, especially concerning the refugee flows and the balance of power in West Asia?
Of course, many Syrians over the last 14 years of conflict, of war, have fled Syria. Most of them were part of the Sunni community because they were the ones who were mainly targeted by the Assad regime and deemed illoyal to the regime. Now, when the tide is turned, of course, the Alawite community is the one that feels now that it's not protected, that people are being targeted because of their religious and sectarian identity. And of course, this gives rise to the idea that Alawites, but also other minorities, want to leave the country. I'm not saying that the political power is there to displace them or wants them to leave, but of course this is something that many also European politicians did not have on their agenda. If you look at the debate and the discourse here in Europe, it's much about Syrians returning to Syria after the downfall of the Assad regime. But now we have a situation where many people legitimately would say, I'm persecuted based on my sectarian or religious identity. That is a big problem. Geopolitically, I also think that there is a rise to those who are, let's say, remnants of the old regime that are allied with Russia, but also with other players in the region, Iran, for example, and that say, okay, if Russia was the only power that protected the Alawites, at least that was the narrative that the Russians were promoting, then we need some other international power to step in. The Europeans are not wanting to do that because they don't want to start the game of foreign intervention in Syria anew, and that is a big problem. On the other hand, somebody needs to protect the Alawite community in humanitarian terms because such massacres might continue.
Thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost. We value your insights and analysis there.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Hi. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Bharat Kelogon, Komeri Namaste.
How many people generally follow you in interviews?
Typically in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Laurent, this is your chance to be famous. You're on Firstpost. One word to describe your equation with Prime Minister Modi.
Amitié.
As India and France work together, are you creating a new era of non-alignment in the technology space?
India is a training superpower. 1 million engineers a year, more than all of Europe and the US combined. So we have that partnership. We have a partnership on the environment and the economy. We also have civilian nuclear programs, and that is something we've developed far beyond the France-India relationship. So we want to work together on AI.
And then comes China with its DeepSeek, creating models at a fraction of the cost. Did that innovation take you by surprise? Did that breakthrough make you sit up and think, what did the Chinese do and how?
But what did DeepSeek do? They took everything that was already available from the last AI model, and then they recalibrated it.
So are you going to ban Chinese AI in France?
So we don't have this American approach of banning tech because of where it comes from.